Hello friends, welcome to week 3 of ShakeTube. This is my second time trying to film this video. I thought I was going to be really efficient and try to film my discussion in my car during my breaks today, but that didn't really work out the way I had hoped. Today we are going to talk about Taming of the Shrew by William Shakespeare. Now, I have been a little bit nervous about talking about this play because it is very, very, very controversial. I probably looked up 3 or 4 other reviews on YouTube about this play, and I think only one of them actually liked it. So I was like, oh, crap. But this is not my first time reading through this play. And I was on the crew for my local theater company's production of it. So I have some things to say about it, and I will tell you that I do actually enjoy this play. So a little history about the play, first of all. It is one of Shakespeare's earliest plays, at least that is what's, readily accepted. That is one of his earliest plays. And I'm assuming if you're watching this video that you probably read this along with me or have read it in the past. This play deals with a husband basically mentally abusing his wife into being a submissive wife. That's the words on the page. That is what they basically say on this page. So obviously very problematic for a modern reader. However, back in Shakespeare's day, which was the Elizabethan era when this was written, there was a lot of discussion and literature being circulated about this topic. Many people were pretty much obsessed with how marriages should work, and usually it focused on how to get a willful wife to become a submissive wife. And what I find really interesting about that is that obviously in the Elizabethan era, Elizabeth I was on the throne. So we had a female monarch reigning over all of England, but yet there was so much talk about women being submissive to their husbands. So I just find that really interesting. I kind of wonder if it was a reaction to the fact that there was a queen in control. What I find particularly interesting about how this play is viewed is obviously in the modern era, we would view this play as very misogynistic and abusive. If we just are reading the words on the page and not necessarily interpreting it or watching it played by people that are interpreting it in a certain way. However, this play was modeled after an earlier ballad where, and I forgot to write down the name of the ballad, but in that ballad, which was apparently very popular in Shakespeare's day, the outcome for the wife was much, much worse than what we would consider as being a horrible thing for Catherine. The wife in that ballad was beaten bloody by her husband for her unwillingness to submit, and then she was publicly humiliated by being wrapped in a horse's hide and paraded through town until she was sufficiently beaten and humiliated enough to agree to submit to her husband and lead a pleasant life with said husband. So, by those standards, obviously we are not judging, in that era, we can't judge it by modern standards, but by that standard, the way Petruchio and Kate interact is actually fairly progressive for that time, because not only did the ballad portray the wife being beaten and wrapped in these hides, that was an actual thing that happened to shrewish women in that day, uh, among other humiliating punishments for not obeying your husband. So the fact that Petruchio never actually physically beats his wife and actually like tries to kill her with kindness, which is actually a line that he uses in the play, um, that actually makes Petruchio seem pretty merciful in Shakespeare's time. Take it for what you will, but I kind of feel like from the research I did and seeing the background to this story, I kind of feel like Shakespeare was actually trying to help Catherine out. Like he didn't want to be so subversive, maybe, as to, never make Catherine submissive in the end. So, you get that outcome. But she is not, in Shakespeare's time, it would not be considered abuse to, like try to change her mind about, like, and try to get her to decide to like call the sky pink if Petruchio said it was pink, that kind of thing. That would actually have been like, wow, he's pretty good if he can get her to do his bidding basically without beating her. So so like I feel like Shakespeare was being kind of kind to Catherine, and from what he could have done to her. And also, I just feel like I need to point out, which doesn't excuse Petruchio's actions, but I do need to point out that Catherine is abusive to her sister and to several of the men in the play. And she is physically abusive to them. She actually ties Bianca up and threatens her with a whip and slaps her and punches her, and does the same to another one of the towns people, or another one of the men in the at the beginning of the play. I forgot who. And also, she slaps Petruchio before he even really does anything to her. Like, he is just bantering with her, and she just slaps him. So, I could possibly see that being justified later. But at the very beginning, she is not some little saintly, virginal sprite of a girl, which, of course, doesn't excuse the actions. But basically, I get the impression that Shakespeare was making them a match for each other. They were both very proud, very stubborn, very arrogant people who wanted to win at all costs. Both of them did. And I feel like a lot of this play, because Catherine doesn't back down right away. She gets scared of his outbursts. She is frustrated by what he is doing, and she's angry. But because she is angry, she fights back at him for much of the play. So I don't think that Shakespeare meant to make her a doormat. He wanted that witty banter between two characters on equal footing. Not only were they equal footing as far as society's standards and why Petruchio originally wanted to marry her, but they were equal as far as brains and attitude, because neither one of them were perfect. They were both very flawed. And I find it interesting that Petruchio actually acknowledges their mutual passion for, not necessarily for each other, but just their mutual passion in general and how well suited they are to like butt heads, and how he's actually kind of looking forward to that. In Act 2, Scene 1, he says, "Why, that is nothing, for I tell you, father, I am as peremptory as she is proud-minded, and where two raging fires meet together, they do consume the thing that feeds their fury. Though little fires grow great with little wind, yet extreme gusts will blow out fire and all. So I to her, and so she yields to me, for I am rough and woo not like a babe." So he is acknowledging that he knows he's in for a fight, and I think he's actually looking forward to it. And I can't say that Catherine is necessarily looking forward to it, but ultimately, I think that she finds it a challenge, like she doesn't just lay down and take it. And actually, I kind of feel like, and of course, she had to marry him or the play would not have moved forward. But considering how she was at the very, very beginning of the play, and how stubborn she was, and how she bullied her sister and her father, and how scared they were, I don't know if, like, she married him. And she was actually kind of mad when he showed up to the wedding late. So she obviously was like, well, here we go. This is what's going to happen. And I kind of almost feel like it could be played as, and it actually was in the Elizabeth Taylor version. She came out of the room of her own accord and was actually kind of enjoying the pre-wedding fun and kind of being the center of attention. So I think she kind of was intrigued by Petruchio and his passion and his arrogance, even though she wouldn't admit it, and even though, it was definitely a hate to love kind of thing, if you can call it love, she did not like him, but I think she was intrigued. So I have never acted in Taming of the Shrew, but I obviously have friends who have, and I was on the crew for a production of it. So I know from talking to the actors who played Petruchio and Kate that it is probably one of the most difficult characters, two of the most difficult characters to play convincingly as to a modern crowd, because ultimately, depending on what direction you go with the play, you want the audience to feel a certain kind of way. And unless you want that to be angry and disgusted, you have to find a way to make it palatable to a modern audience that all this is going on. And this further proves my mantra that I say all the time, that you cannot just read Shakespeare. Shakespeare was meant to be experienced, because if you just read the words on the page, you're going to only feel one way. But if you see it, if you see the actors' expressions, and you see them interact with each other, and you feel the heat, or the anger or something, you will potentially feel a different kind of way. So let's talk about the different ways. The first way that I have heard discussed, and actually I kind of feel like the Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton version was sort of this way, is to play it as a parody to what marriages should really be like. And I think that comes across as a decent way to view this play, and could potentially be what Shakespeare originally had in mind, because of the induction, the little prologue, where we get the little side action of Christopher Sly and his drunken stupor at a lord's residence, and how they decide to play a trick on him and make him believe that he is a lord. They get him to watch this play, this comedy that they have said that they have commissioned for their lord, and it is Taming of the Shrew. So actually, if we go by the prologue of this play, it appears that Taming of the Shrew is a play within a play, which, for the most part in Shakespeare, at least the ones that I can remember, the plays within a play are usually some sort of parody of something else that is going on within the play, within the overall play, or just something of an amusing entertainment, such as the play in A Midsummer Night's Dream. So potentially, you could just play this as a very slapstick, very like Punch and Judy type of a play that is just going to entertain the pretend lord. But the thing that I feel like kind of hurts that way of doing things is that we never get a resolution to that Christopher Sly prologue, which is very odd to me. I was not able to find any definitive reasoning why. If I know that it's in certain folios and not others, but honestly, I didn't have time to really go into all of that. So without a resolution, without a reaction from Christopher Sly about the action of the play, it falls flat as a parody, because you get the final monologue from Catherine, where she is chiding the other women for not being submissive to their husbands, who work very hard to provide for them, and that is all they ask for, basically is submission to their will. So for better or worse, that's what they thought back then, so don't come at me. But anyway, but without any kind of reaction in any way from Christopher Sly, we don't know if that whole play was supposed to be a parody, or if it was supposed to be honestly the way that Shakespeare thought that things should be run. The Elizabeth Taylor version that I watched didn't even have the Christopher Sly prologue in it, and I feel like that does get kind of thrown out a lot, because it is kind of just odd that it's in there. But I did feel like especially the Petruchio character in that was very much larger in life, very, very much over the top with the way he did things and his overall attitude, but also with the way Elizabeth Taylor acted at the beginning, how she was just raging for the sake of raging. She was just always screaming. Her hair was always a mess. She just seemed like a lunatic. And I just feel like that was the more slapstick Punch and Judy aspect of the play that maybe Shakespeare was going for. And it is a comedy. So, and there is a lot of witty banter between the two. So it is definitely a comedy, even if you don't like the subject matter. It's very witty. The other way that I have actually seen this done, and I thought it was very, very clever and very, very convincing, was in the local theater production that I participated in as a crew member, where my friends Kenny and Liz, who are an actual married couple in real life, played Kate and Petruchio. And their take on these two characters was to change both of them, basically, from Petruchio being the blowhard, stubborn, basically jackass, to someone who legitimately loved his wife and wanted the best for her. And he was able to do that without changing any of the lines, and actually any of his actions. which, we still can't condone necessarily, but part of his interactions with Kate, played by my friend Liz, just kind of put a different spin on why he did some of the things he did, and it was very interesting. So it kind of becomes a hate to love romance play, with obvious comedic aspects in it. But it definitely, when I watched it, I didn't really feel like this icky, he's abusing her feeling to it, which is really interesting. The one little scene that really stuck with me, this was probably five or so years ago that I participated in this play. And the one thing that really stuck out to me was during the wedding feast. And this is probably one of the parts of the play that gets modern readers hackles up the most, because it is when Petruchio is at the wedding feast and he is basically acknowledging that Catherine is his possession and he will do what he wants with her. So in most plays that I've seen, and in the Richard Burton, Elizabeth Taylor film, Petruchio is very much a jackass when he reads this line. He says, "I will be master of what is mine own. She is my goods, my chattel. She is my house, my household stuff, my field, my barn, my horse, my ox, my ass, my anything. And here she stands. Touch her, whoever dare." Okay. Simmer down, buddy. But, and I won't be able to do this as well as Kenny did it, but when he did it, and I'm going to go back a little bit in the actual, in the speech he made, but he actually presented it to the crowd as if he was saying, yes, she is my possession, but not only is she my possession, she is my prized possession. She is the most valuable thing in my life, and I will not let you touch her. I will not let you hurt her. And she is to obey me. I am the master of what is mine, but I will protect her and I will value her if she gives me this obedience in turn. So we have the first part where Catherine is angry, of course, and she's basically telling Petruchio, I'm not going to leave. This is my wedding dinner. I'm going to please myself. I will go when I want to go. You are not my master, which of course in that day and age was wrong. He very much is her master. And she says, "Gentlemen, forward to the bridal dinner. I see a woman may be made a fool if she has not the spirit to resist." So and my friend Kenny, he took her by the arm and said, "They shall go forward, Kate, at thy command. Obey the bride, you that attend her. Go to the feast, revel and domineer, carouse full measure to her maidenhead. Be mad and merry, or go hang yourselves. But for my bonny Kate, she must with me." And he takes her about the waist, as in defiance of the company. "Nay, look not big, nor stamp, nor stare, nor fret. I will be master of what is mine own." And then it was funny, or it was nice, because he touched her face and he said, "She is my goods, my chattel. She is my house, my household stuff, my field, my barn, my horse, my ox, my ass, my anything. And here she stands. Touch her, whoever dares." And it just was, and I'm sure I didn't do it justice because I'm a girl and I have nobody else here with me. But it was just kind of like, oh, okay. He's not like completely being an ass. I mean, it's still kind of weird, but it's not completely an asshole move. And yes, it is still it's an outdated idea, but in that day and age, she was his property. He got a dowry for her. She was a possession. But it was just the way he said it, like, I'm going to protect you. I am now your master, and I know that I am responsible for you. But in order for me to protect you and value you, you have to be with me. And I say we go. So you have to go. So, there's a little give and take there in the play. So take that for what you will. And was that Shakespeare's real intent? I mean, we can't know that. He could have just meant it at face value, like, yeah, I am your master, you're my possession, you're going to go with me. But again, it is seeing the play and having good actors to interpret the words the best way they can to make it palatable. And then, like, the denial of food. Yes, that is never a good thing, and I'm not trying to defend that. But I think it has been misinterpreted slightly as he like was starving her for weeks, and it really wasn't. It was like a couple of meals. But not that that is good, don't come at me, but but the way my friends, again, the way they played it was that Kate was still being super stubborn, super angry. She would not she was just being very prideful. She wouldn't say thank you for anything. She would turn up her nose at things and that they weren't good enough for her. So, what did Petruchio do? He acted like a parent who is, well, okay, not acted like a parent. Parents don't deny their kids whole meals, or they shouldn't. But it was like she was being a spoiled child, and he was saying, well, if you don't want it, you aren't going to eat it. And the other thing that they did was for the dressmaker scene where he like shows her this beautiful dress and then says it's not good enough for you, so he rips it up. That was kind of made to be like she was being very vain and very prissy and like, oh, look at these, look again, this is gorgeous. And he was basically saying it shouldn't matter what you look like. I think that you're gorgeous no matter what you're wearing. You don't need to wear these things. So that's just another interpretation, which I thought was very interesting because they never changed any of the words. It was nothing was ever spoken that wasn't a Shakespearean line in Taming of the Shrew. But it was just the way they presented it was like, oh yeah, she's kind of arrogant. She's kind of stubborn. I can kind of see why he's mad about that. And then, of course, vice versa. He's trying to do these things to her to make her submit, so she's getting mad. So it was just like a fight the whole time, But then we kind of have an instance, and this also happened in the Elizabeth Taylor version, that Petruchio is trying to get her to agree that like the sky is green or something like that. I don't remember exactly. And she won't do it. And just there comes a point where he says, well, then we'll turn around. If you're going to continue to thwart me at every turn, we're just going to go home because I don't feel like dealing with it. And that's when she was like, okay, the sky is whatever color you say it is. It's green. You're right, And then the way my friends played it was, it just, at that point, like, they kind of turned it into a game. Like, he was like, okay, she's finally, like, not going to subvert everything I say. We can actually maybe work together, and we can maybe actually have a good time together bantering, like we can have this banter kind of thing, but she's not going to be fighting me at every turn. So I really was, and in that play, in the one that my friends put on in the theater company that I'm involved in, I actually did believe that she loved him in the end. And that she was basically saying, you know what, he basically provides for me. He is the person who takes care of me. He wants to take care of me. But he wants me to appreciate what he does for me. Um, that kind of thing. And, in that long speech that she has at the end, which can also get modern women's, guard up and get them all riled up, um, she she basically has like the longest speech in all of Shakespeare's women. She gets to address the audience as the last person you hear. She is now giving instruction to the younger women, who previously were kind of like her superior. Her sister was sort of her superior, even though she was younger, because she was just like the little angel. Um, so, yeah, I just thought, I think this is a really interesting play. It's definitely problematic. I am in no way saying that a man should do the things that Petruchio did to Kate to get her to do what he wants. Like, that's just no. Um, but I just think that this play could be very benefit of probably like all of Shakespeare's plays. This could be the most beneficial to actually see, because unless you see it, you aren't going to get the subtle nuances of it, and you're not going to necessarily appreciate the back and forth banter that shows how well matched Kate and Petruchio were, and maybe even in the end, how much they actually enjoyed bantering with each other. And yeah, I just think like it's just very interesting. And it's a lot of backstage talking too during the show with Meryl Streep and her co-star. I think his name was Raul Julio, I think. Um, and it's just really great to see how they work together, how they felt about the relationship. They both played it as they were just two very passionate people that just, collided in that fiery passion that like just burns and like can make everything more, just more. And I've watched that multiple times, and I just think that, I mean, Meryl Streep is great. The man who I believe is deceased now, who played Petruchio, he is just larger than life. He's Puerto Rican, and he just puts all the Puerto Rican passion into playing Petruchio. And they're both just larger than life characters, and you can definitely feel the sexual tension in those characters. So I definitely think that you should watch those two. There's two videos. I will link them below. And yeah, I've made this very long. I'm sorry. I'm always doing this. I just get very excited about theater, and I'm sorry. But I'm sorry, not sorry. So let me know. Are you a Taming of the Shrew hater? Can you get behind any of the things I'm saying about it, possibly being that they could really have loved each other in the end? I'm just interested to know. But yeah, that's all for me for Taming of the Shrew. I got through it, people. Whew. Now I just have to deal with the comments. So, oh man. All right. Well, I will see you next week for the final installment of ShakeTube 2020, where all four of the co-moderators will be discussing Hamlet together in some kind of a Zoom chat. We'll see how that goes. All right, friends. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.